Okay. Thanks. Let me welcome you again in Naples and to this conference that is in some way supported and organized by the CENELEC TC9X. Why the CENELEC, that is a standard committee, wants to promote this kind of conference? This is what I want to like to show in my presentation. First, I am Pietro Marmo. I am the TC9X chair. I am on Hitachi Railway STS. As Leonardo, I'm here since 25 years ago, and I always been in the RAMS sector. And from 2015, I am chair of TC9X. Three simple concepts. What are the standards? What is CENELEC in the standards? And what is the importance of standards in the innovation process? First, what is the importance of standards? Why we are investing and we are struggling in doing standards? There is a very simple example, and one is where the standards are not well defined in Europe. Is the plug connector. Okay? You go, everywhere you go in Europe, you have to change plug connector. You have adapters, you have converters, okay? And one converter usually is about 15 euros, okay? With 15 euros, if you have a good approach to the standards, you can achieve this. One cellular phone with which you can call everywhere in the world, everyone in the world. So for the same cost of non-standards, you have a device that is a standard. So the standard of specifications, the standardization of specification has an impact very, very high. So for this reason, the European community has made a big effort in standardization. But it's not just for the specification that is important, also for processes. Let's take two different fields for the safety that is not railway, and let's consider a process. The safety on cars and safety on airplanes. There are a big amount of rules, but they have to comply with a lot of rules, with a lot of laws. But in the cars there are national authorities, while in the airplane are international authorities. In cars, we have every nation with different rules. Let's consider where we have to drive, on the left or right, for instance. While for airplane, there is no left or right. Everyone in the world, the rules are the same. What are the consequences? For cars, there are 3,000 casualties every day. For airplane, there are less than 1,000 casualties every year. So there is a big difference, because every time there is some kind of accident in the airplane, you have investigation, you have recommendation, you have the change of the rules and the standards. When you have an accident in cars, you do nothing. Okay? And it's very, very difficult to have new rules for cars, and usually when you have new laws for the cars, there are inappropriate and so on, there is no progress. The standardization in the process also has an impact very, very high. So, CENELEC, what is CENELEC? It is a body, a standardization body, that is supported by the European community, and has the duty of management and support of production of European norms. It manages all the national standard committees, so there are every nation has a standard committee, but they are all together managed at the European level, and it supports the creation of technical committees and that go to product these standards. CENELEC and CENELEC are actually two different bodies. CEN is related to mechanical norms, CENELEC to electronic norms. TC9X, the CENELEC has a lot of technical committees, I think more than 100. More than 100, I think, for every kind of field. TC9X is the one dedicated to the railway field for the electronic part. And then there is also another in CEN that is the 256. The story is quite short at the end. It is in '88 there was the first proposal of creation of those standardization committees. Then there was in '89 the setup of TC9X, and Mr. Ferrazzini, that was one manager coming from the old Ansaldo, was the first chair, and supported by EC as two main duties. One, it was prepare standards for the directives of the European community for the European market and special sectors, the railway, water, and so on. And the other was to extend and speed up the work of the ASC TC9, that was the previous standardization committee for railway, whose chair is here on my left. That was at that time only related to rolling stocks norms. Here there is a very confusing diagram on how the things work. When the European Commission made mandates, that is a set of rules in order to promote some field, then go to define through the European Railway Agency specification for the compatibility for the TCI, let's say, and all them make request to the Senelec committees to make some standards. There are requests for standards, that is, we have this kind of field, we have these problems, please go ahead and collect all the experts on this particular issue and go there to propose a standard that is a set of rules, a set of specifications that can be accepted at the European level. How this can be accepted? There is a proposal, and then the proposal goes to the national committees for comments and votes. So every national committees go there in the country, go to speak with other experts, with all the stakeholders in the industry, in the authorities, everywhere, and then go to collect comments. Comments come back to the Senate working committee, working group, and then there is a new version that is voted. Okay, this process is quite complex, but this process guarantees that there is the consensus between all the different stakeholders in different nations, because the Senelec standard, the standard committees are in some way like the UN committee, is a place where to speak, where to interact each other, and to reach consensus. And when the consensus is reached, then the standard is good and has very good probability to be followed by the different countries and elsewhere. Because we have standards, that European standards that are made for Europe, are used in Europe, but are really reference for all the world. For instance, standards for safety, we go everywhere in the world with the safety standards of Senelec, and we know that the authorities of different countries, in Australia, in India, perhaps less in US, but in China, in all the Asia-Pacific area, we go with the standards, and they recognize that the standards are the state of the art of the rules, of the way of producing railway stuff. What are the relations between standard and innovation? We have had in the last 20, 30 years in the railway market a big wave of innovation, and of course there is an acceleration in this innovation. The competition has pushed a lot this innovation. So we have a big investment in order to change the paradigm of railway operations. But when we go to make this investment, there should be some kind of focus needed in order to make investment in the best ideas. As we saw before for the plug connectors, if we have 10 different plug connectors, then we will divide our investment in 10 different flows in order to enhance these plug connectors. If we are able to recognize some standard solution that is good for everyone, then we can focus this kind of investment in this direction. So, what the standard is for innovation is to identify the best of the state-of-the-art solution, and to guarantee that these solutions are interoperable between the different countries and the different solutions. So this is the duty of the standards, even in the state-of-the-art fields. The standards are not made only when we have some technologies that is well assessed or well used everywhere. No, they can promote the best technologies, the best solutions. On the other side, there is the need for a better joint venture between the research and standard, because the research should be more oriented to create a set of standard, to give a basis, and to produce on this standard solution the creativity that is needed for innovation. And also, what we aim is that the research programs consider the creation of standards, this request for standards, as an important goal. A research project should not only to provide a solution, but also should give the input in order to start a standardization process. And also, the national and international bodies should provide the best support possible to the standardization process. In a time in which the investment are very well considered for the returns that they can give, the standardization process, and I tell you in truth, I mean, I'm not interested, as I'm just the chair of the standardization committee, are, in our opinion, really the guarantees for a good return on this investment. Okay, that's it.